let's do a race recap. As you can see, I ran the New York City Marathon 2 weeks ago. I've been doing a lot of reflecting on what went well, what didn't go well, how I was feeling. I wanted to do this recap before I forgot everything. Let's start at the beginning. 5:30 a.m., race morning, wake up, had about a half an hour until I needed to be in the lobby to meet up with folks who I was going to walk to the subway with and then ride the subway and like get all the way to the start village with. I just did the essentials. About 6 o'clock in the morning, I went downstairs. I met up with these two women, Marilyn and Donna. We then walked over to the subway where we met this huge group of people. And it's at that point that I think I had like my first bit of food. I was actually sipping on a Sprite because that tends to settle my stomach. I think I had a Kate's Real Food Bar, and I was also starting to sip on a Core Power drink because I wanted to get protein in like hours before the race. Long story short, I think from the minute I left my hotel to the minute we got to the start village was 3 hours. So during that time, we were on the subway, we got on a ferry, then we got on a bus. I was able to also eat some Cheerios while we were waiting for the bus. Fast forward to the start village, I think it was like 10 o'clock. We went straight for the porta potties and then went into our start village, which was awesome. I was in the pink color group and we were like under the Verrazano. So we got to actually like watch the different waves go off. Second order of business was a bagel and coffee. Other than that, we just got to hang out. About a half an hour before we were gonna go into our corrals, we started like putting our gels in everywhere, switching our shoes. And then we headed over to the corrals. 15 minutes before the race, I took my first gel. I take the Never Second C30. It has 30 grams of carbs and 200 milligrams of sodium. So at this point, I think I had drank probably maybe sipped on 18-ish ounces of water for the entire morning. And I had refilled my handheld in the start village and then put a packet of Element in there. Walking to the start line, it just felt so surreal. Like we had been up for so long. We had done so much already. And then all of a sudden I realized like, oh, I'm gonna go run a marathon now. Cannon goes off, the race starts, and then it's surreal. Like it was almost anticlimactic because you have all this anticipation that builds up and then you're crossing the Verrazano and there's no one there. There are no spectators. First whole mile is all uphill. I'm trying to just like keep it easy by feel because my GPS on my watch is like not working at all. So I did see the 450 pacer. Now in my brain, my goal for the race was 445. So I knew if I could keep myself between the 445 and 450 pacer, I was gonna be in a good situation. Then we crest the bridge, start to come down. We've already ran a mile. I remember seeing this sign that said, "Welcome to Brooklyn." And it was like, oh, like now the race is really starting because we're gonna be like on the streets of New York City and I can't wait to like see what Brooklyn has to offer. I just kept trying to keep a steady pace. My goal was to kind of keep it around the 11s, the first 5-ish miles, and then kind of inch it up like 5 by 5 seconds, like every 5 miles after that. I did start fueling right away because I knew that my last marathon, I got kind of nauseous by the end and it was hard for me to take fuel in. So this time I was like, let's fuel early, let's fuel as much as we can until we can't anymore. So I started taking the C30s at mile 2 and then I would take them every 2 miles after that. I also knew that it was going to be hard for me to gauge like how hydrated I was because it was so cool. I wasn't like dripping sweat. So I kind of just told myself to try to take a sip every half mile. All of Brooklyn, I think I smiled the entire time. I don't think I've ever experienced a race like that. To have people on both sides cheering you on. So many people were reaching out for high fives. I definitely regret not putting my name across the top of my shirt. I had it like on my thigh and on my bib, but it was not big enough and people could not see it. Okay, 5K passes. Cool, on target, like 11:03 pace. 10K passes, I think I dropped it down to like 11:01. Then we're at 15K all of a sudden. Then we're at mile 10 and I had finished my bottle, so I like veered off to go through the water stop, and luckily there was a guy with like a huge jug of water who was able to just like pour it straight into my bottle, and I put another Element in my bottle at that point. The water stops were insane. My feet were so sticky after every single one. Physically, I was feeling really, really good. I think I definitely walked around too much in the days leading up to the marathon because my legs just felt kind of heavy. At some point in Brooklyn, my friend Hillary popped up out of nowhere, and we would kind of like run together, and then she would go for it, I would go for it, run together. Like we weren't really running together. We were just sort of seeing each other for quite some time. So then like mile 11 comes, mile 12, and all of a sudden I see that we're about to hit a bridge. I think in my brain, I was most nervous about the Queensboro, but I highly underestimated these other bridges. Like the halfway point was, I think, halfway across the Pulaski, and that thing was steep. I think my halfway split was like 223 or something like that, which is like perfect for what I wanted. Down on the other side, we head into Queens, but I knew that the Queensboro was next, and I knew that that one was going to be tough, and that bridge delivered. I think it was maybe 10 feet into the Queensboro that I was like, I think I should pull out an AirPod for this bridge. Sometimes I just need a beat in my ear. I also at that point like met up with Hillary again. So I think we kind of, without even saying it, both like locked in with each other. We're gonna get up this bridge, like it can happen. By this point, this is like mile 15. So it's not like this is early in the race. This is getting into those tough miles. And it was also at this point that I realized I needed to go to the bathroom. I knew that First Ave was gonna be wild and there probably weren't gonna be very many porta potty options. So I was kind of scoping out, like right at the bottom of the bridge when we came around, there was this long line of porta potties and there were no lines. So I was like, okay, this is my time. I'm not gonna be able to make another 10 miles. Like, let's just go. So I hopped back into the race. I had gotten my caffeinated gel in. I was still drinking my Element from my second fill up. And then I knew that my husband and my husband's aunt and uncle were gonna be at mile 18. So I was like, okay, I just have to make it to there. A lot of First Ave was me just kind of like figuring out like, okay, how long is it gonna be until I see them? And I had taken out my AirPod again at this point because we were back with like so many crowds. So I'm like counting down the miles, mile 17, mile 18, like I'm still feeling really good at this point. I think I was like slowly dropping my splits to be like high 10s, but under 11, which is exactly where I wanted to be. And then I got to see my husband and it was just like, I screamed the weirdest scream when I saw them both times. It makes me laugh every single time I think about it. So then I knew like I just have to make it from 18 to 23 and then I'm gonna be able to see them again. But we still had 2 more bridges to handle. Next bridge I think was the Willis Avenue Bridge, which I think was around mile 20. Again, like it was just insane to me that everything was passing so quickly. Oh, I will also say that at mile 18, I like did kind of an internal check and I was like, I cannot take another gel right now. So I told myself like, let's wait till 19. Mile 19 came, I was able to take a gel. And then I kind of said to myself, I think I should wait again and then take my second caffeinated gel at mile 22. So I was still sipping on my Element, but I was also kind of getting sick of that. So I do remember like going up and over the Willis Bridge. Again, like kind of like the Pulaski, it was like short but steep and kind of took me off guard. And then I think we were in the Bronx. I think that's the next borough, which was awesome. Like bands and just, again, people everywhere. But it's also just like really fuzzy to me because then all of a sudden we were on another bridge, which I think was the Madison Avenue Bridge, which then brought us back into Manhattan for Fifth Ave. It was at this point where I feel like I kind of hit, I wouldn't say it was a wall. I would say it was a barrier to like cross over because mile 22 came and I went to go get out my caffeinated gel and I was like, I feel a little nauseous right now. So I ended up stopping, I think at one of the water stops and just getting plain water and taking some sips of that. And I think that helped just like change up what was happening on my palate. Because I think having the Element and then like all the flavors from the gels, I think it was just like getting to me a little bit. So I was able to very slowly take my caffeinated gel at 22. And then every water stop until then, or until the end, I was actually just drinking a cup of water. So I'm also trying to do runner's math, trying to figure out like, what is my finish time gonna be? After we'd go over a timing mat, I would check my phone and check the New York City Marathon app to see like what time I was at, like what my projected finish time was at. And it was slowly creeping down under 4:45. And I was getting so excited. Like I was like, we need to lock in. We need to just keep what we're doing and we're gonna finish in under 4:45. Mile 23 passes and I swear I like missed my husband. And then all of a sudden I heard them yelling, Kiki, Kiki, and they were there on the left. So I like ran over and they had actually had like gels out for me in case I needed it and fuel. And I was like, no, I'm good. I know people say that like Fifth Ave is a long slog, but honestly, like I didn't really feel the uphill. Like I know we were going uphill, but I didn't feel it as much as I thought I was going to. I think somewhere around mile 23-ish, I started to feel my left IT band and my heart sank. I was like, no, we are not doing this. Like, I don't want this to cause pain because I was worried it was gonna like alter my stride and make me slow down. So at this point, like I'm done taking gels. I was still trying to take water at stops. And I think at some point I had finished the element in my handheld and I had refilled it with just plain water. And then like all of a sudden we're in Central Park. I also knew that I was getting kind of sick of the crowds and again needed like an internal metronome to like keep me going. So I put in an AirPod, put on my playlist, and that just helped me to like keep my cadence up and to keep my pace. So mile 23, mile 24, mile 25. And that first part of Central Park, there was such a beautiful downhill and it was so nice. I felt like I could kind of just like let my legs run a little bit. We hit Central Park South, I think it was, which actually was a little bit of an uphill. So it was like a mile to go. I actually feel like I had to weave more at the end of the race than I did at the beginning of the race. I'm trying to like speed up to finish strong and finish fast, but there were so many people and the roads narrowed in Central Park. And then I saw the signs that like we had seen the day before when we were walking towards the finish line. There was that 400 meters to go, and then you hit mile 26 and it's like 200 meters to go. And all of a sudden it was the finish line. Like I know it was like rolling at the end there in Central Park, but I didn't really notice it because at that point my adrenaline was so high and I just knew the finish line was there and I just threw my arms up in the air and crossed 4:43:41, a 17-minute PR from my first marathon. And I felt strong 98% of the time, minus the nausea and minus the IT band stuff, which really only lasted like maybe a quarter mile, half mile, and then it resolved. My mind was blown at what had just happened. And I had this huge smile on my face. I started crying immediately, getting my medal and getting my poncho. It was just the most magical feeling to feel like I had succeeded. I just want to say thank you to everyone who believed in me, supported me, donated to my fundraiser, watched all of my recap videos over the course of this build. Overall, things that worked really well. My fueling plan, my hydration plan, my pacing plan, my splits were beautiful and negative. And also just like my training worked really well. The shoes worked great. I loved them. Things I would change for next time, I think maybe having water in that second bottle instead of Element. And also maybe I can space out my gels a little bit more now. Also would have definitely put my name larger on the front of my shirt. I loved my experience running the New York City Marathon. I will always look back on it so fondly. I'm so incredibly proud of myself. I'm really excited to plan out my race calendar for the next year. Make sure you like and subscribe. Stay tuned. I want to keep showing up on this page and sharing content with you all. So thanks so much for watching my video. And if you missed the race weekend recap, I'll put that link on the video too so that you can go back and watch that. That's my race recap.